it doesn't matter how great a treatment is. If you can't afford it, you're not going to get it. And we see this all the time right now with the GLP-1 meds. So I'm going to talk to you about some step-by-step approaches you can take to determine whether you have insurance coverage, and then once you do, what you can do to increase your chances of getting it. So the first thing is you have to know whether or not your insurance covers these medications. Now, there's a bunch of different ways that you can do it. First, in our electronic medical record software does have some very limited functionality where it can connect to a database and pull some of this data. A lot of people think, well, I can pull every single last thing. I can't. I get very, very basic information, but sometimes I can take an educated guess about whether a medication is covered or not. There's other ways that you can figure this out, though. A lot of people will have apps through their insurance company with the formulary on it, and you can go on those apps and look up your medications, Wegovy and Zepbound. Important to know the difference between the diabetic versions, which are almost always covered, and the weight loss versions. If you don't have diabetes, in 2024, it's really hard to get the diabetes medicines. So you can look through the apps for the weight loss versions for Wegovy and Zepbound, unless you have diabetes, in which case you can look at the Ozempic and the Mounjaro, the diabetes version. And then the other thing you do is call your insurance company. On our website, we actually have a tool that will guide you through that conversation. And so it tells you what questions to ask, and at the end it'll send you an email with a nice digest of what the criteria are and what your chances are and what your best medications that you can have.
That's a really helpful tool.
Yeah. So your best weapon is to know your policy. So just it being covered is not enough. There's something called prior authorization. Prior authorization means that we have to submit forms to your insurance company, and then it's reviewed by somebody who determines whether they're going to pay for it or not. And prior authorization has a strict set of rules. You must be over a certain BMI. You must have tried this medication first. Knowing these rules is the key to obtaining insurance coverage, because you want to make sure that you address all of those things in the prior authorization. Again, people think the doctor's office has the ability to look all those up. Oh, let me just pop on and log in and get all that information. If you can get it, it's often wrong. Honestly, the only way that we have found to reliably get that information is to submit a prior authorization, have it denied, and with the denial will come the criteria that are required for that. And it's this kind of redundant process where we apply, get denied, figure out what we need to do it, and then reapply and get it approved. So if you can come to your doctor's office with that information, you're going to have a much better chance of getting approved. What you can also do is ask for a copy of your medical policy, and that will specify exactly what those criteria are. The more research you do, the better position you'll be in. You should know what your hemoglobin A1C is. That's the most common blood value we use to measure diabetes. And if you know what your hemoglobin A1C is, you may be in a position to get the diabetes version of these medications. You also should have a list of the other medications you've tried for obesity. Have you tried phentermine or Qsymia or Xenical or any other medications in the past, and what did you tolerate them or not? Also very important. A lot of patients will say, but doesn't the insurance company understand how much this would help me and how much I need this medication? Yeah, they do. They just don't care. That's really important to understand. It's a harsh reality, but I have had hundreds of conversations with physicians, with nurses who work for insurance companies, and they do not care about you. You must approach this like a lawyer, not a patient. Know what your contract says, be able to prove and defend it, and then put the prior authorization together, put forth the argument that supports the medical policy. And unless you look at it that way, your chances of getting approved are very small.